So first of all, I just want to welcome you guys all for being here today. Everybody here knows who I am, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. So my name is Jessica. I am the creator of Death Doula Dreams. It's a little blog that I've created at the start of the year. I created it to kind of get back into writing and to see if I can, help normalize death and dying and provide some education to people in our community, or my friends and my family. So that's why we're also kind of here today. I'm also a nurse that works at the Hospice of Windsor in Essex County. And today I have a good friend of mine and colleague, Maria Giannotti, here with me. And together we're just here to help people, to give people a little bit of education in regards to advanced care planning. So Maria, thank you so much for being here with me today. I appreciate it so much.
Anytime, Jess. I love that you're doing this.
So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Like you said, most people know who I am. I don't know if you know any of my background. I am an educator in my first career. I taught high school for over 10 years. Then I moved on to healthcare, worked at the Cancer Center. And from the Cancer Center, I ended up getting a director's position at Hotel de Grace as spiritual care and ethics. And in my time as the ethics person, my experience there actually led me to this work, which I was sitting in numerous family meetings when I would see people being asked to make decisions about life and death for their loved ones. And they were overwhelmed and terrified and not even sure what they were being asked. And from that experience, I ended up doing a master's degree in bioethics. And my thesis was basically, how do our healthcare providers usually know about advanced care planning, but how do we educate the community? Because we're asking them to make those decisions, right? And so that's how I got involved in advanced care planning and end of life stuff. I teach at the university in the summers, Human Meaning of Death. So death and dying and normalizing that, like you said, has become a really big, important part of what I want to do, the legacy that I want to leave behind as I work through this life and make life easier for people, I guess.
Well, you're definitely a woman that has very many roles, including cooking and me and the other nurses at hospice with yummy food. But like you said, with I know in my own personal experience, I was telling you a little bit earlier about my mom, and she had been sick for so many years, at least 5 or 6 years, and we still didn't have those discussions. We knew, I knew death was imminent, but we still never had those conversations until roughly 2 weeks before she passed. Yeah. And I was cramming to, kind of figure things out and, try to get her so she was able to die at home peacefully. So let's keep on moving here. Maria has prepared a really amazing slideshow for us. So she's going to start sharing her screen.
Actually, you have to, you disabled me. So if you...
How do I do that?
Let
me see here. Share screen.
Yeah, you let me know. No, okay. I'm still disabled, sorry.
I don't understand disabled.
So
Jess.
you have...
Does anybody know?
Jess?
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to add her as a host.
Oh. So do you know how I do that?
We just did this. I don't understand.
I know.
On the chat, it should say add, click on her name and then add her as a host.
Let me see. Participants.
Yep.
Maria, make a
Yep.
host. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for joining.
There we go. Yay.
No problem.
Yay. Jackie, whoever. Well, thank you.
Jackie's my cousin and I miss
Hi, Jackie.
Thanks
Hello.
for being here. All right, go ahead, Maria.
All right. So,
actually, you know what? I'm going to start. Okay. So, like I said, she's prepared this lovely slideshow for us. If you guys happen to have any questions throughout, we're just going to save them for the end. We do have like a 40-minute time slot. I don't think we're going to come anywhere near that because I'm a nervous fast talker. But so let's just get started. So Maria, I am 42 years old, and I didn't learn about advanced care planning until I started hospice 3 years ago. So what can you tell us about advanced care planning?
So what you just said, Jess, is a very common experience. When I teach out in the community, when I ask the audience, how many of you know what advanced care planning is, I'll get 1 or 2 hands. 8 out of 10 Canadians don't know what it is, including our healthcare professionals. I mean, they have an idea, but they really don't have a full understanding of it. So most of us, when we're looking at making decisions for our family, really don't know what our loved ones want because we've not had those really difficult conversations like you were talking about, right? So if I were to say to you, what is advanced care planning? Basically, I could sum it up in 2 questions. If you're not able to speak for yourself, who would speak for you? And do they know what you want? I think people think it's a very complicated kind of process that you have to go through, write a document. But the reality is it's quite simple. Who's going to speak for you when you can't speak for yourself? And have you had a conversation with them about exactly what it is that you want? Our society does not like to talk about death and dying, sickness and illness. We wait till we're in the middle of it. And then we think, oh, now we should talk about it, but that's the wrong time to do it. So the purpose, to be honest with you, of advanced care planning isn't for healthcare providers, isn't for anybody else. It's for us to prepare that person who we've decided is going to speak for us, and they're known as the substitute decision maker. It's to help them be prepared so when it's time, or if it ever happens, they know exactly what we want and they could be our voice.
Okay. So with that, like, what makes advanced care planning like so important?
Well, it's important for a couple of things, and you know, the research. Well, first of all, if you think about COVID, that was a real wake-up call for us during this time. Things happened so quickly. People were hospitalized, decisions were being made, and we weren't prepared for them, right? So if we had an advanced care plan in place, or we had these conversations with our families, they would know what we would want. And so it's important because it allows us to do a few things. Oops, okay. To do a few things I'll talk about later in the next, in a few slides, exactly why we need to do this. It just gives us a voice when we're not able to speak for ourselves.
I know that when I kind of got this idea in my head as to, you know, do this little interview with you, I felt guilty because I myself, I don't have any plans in place right now. And it's like something I haven't even really discussed with my husband. So how would I get started?
So you're not uncommon. When you talk to many of the healthcare providers, whether they were in hospital or wherever I worked, many of them have not have done an advanced care plan. They mention things, but they don't have anything fully in place. So getting started is pretty simple. All you need to do is think about what it is that you value, what do you want, should you ever become sick. There are things that we have strong beliefs in. There are things that, for example, my dad, he was very clear about his independence. And so that was something I know that he didn't want to be in a bed somewhere lingering in illness. So that was, you know, he made that clear to us. He thought about what is the quality of life I want. And so we knew that, and we knew what the decisions were to be made for him. So think about it. Then talk to your family members. I can remember I talked to a lot of seniors when I was working with the compassion care community, and this is what I would do presentations on advanced care planning. And I'd always ask, anybody here have an advanced care plan? We had this lovely 92-year-old that raised her hand, very proud that she had done one. I said, oh, that's wonderful. And my question is always, well, how did you start that conversation with your family member? She goes, my daughter Nora is my substitute decision maker, and I wrote everything out. And I said, that's great. So how did you start talking to her about this? She looked at me like I was crazy and said, what do you mean? I said, well, what did you say to Nora so that she knew what you wanted? She goes, oh Lord, I haven't talked to her about it. She understood it too. This is the best part of the whole conversation we had. She goes, I wrote it all out, put it in my lingerie drawer. And so when I'm sick, they will know what to do. So I thought, she's 92 and got a lingerie drawer. I'm doing something real wrong.
I don't even have a lingerie drawer.
I know. So her idea was, it was like a will, right? You kept it hidden and quiet until the time you're sick. But you need to talk to your family members. You need to talk to your physicians. You need to talk to your specialists. Anybody who has any part of your care should know about this. You can put it in a document if you like, but it's not necessary. As long as these conversations are had, that's the important part. It's the conversation. And then every so often review it, because we all know that as we grow, we change, right? So if you told me at 20, Maria, you're going to be a paraplegic, confined to a bed, blah, 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 I'd be saying, oh Lord, I would never want to live that way. Having worked in a hospital and at 63, having met people who were paraplegics or quadriplegics, realizing that there was still life that could be lived and quality of life for some of these people, that puts a different thing. Now I'd have to think twice about it. So at 20, I was very different from 63, right? Or I'm healthy and I don't want this, but when I'm sick and there's a possibility of some kind of a treatment, yeah, maybe I do want that treatment. Maybe I do want to be on life support until they can resolve my pneumonia or whatever, right? So it's reviewing it when it's necessary.
Okay. So I know a lot of people like struggle with initiating those conversations. I know like when my mother passed, so she was hard of hearing, she couldn't hear anything. Like I really had to kind of think outside of the box in a short period of time when initiating these conversations to try to figure out what exactly she wanted. Do you have any tips on like how we could start these conversations?
So I think that, I think people think it should be this big, long, serious conversation, and it doesn't have to be. I think that when we talk about advanced care planning, it's listening to what people say all along, right? When they're healthy and when they're not. So there are a lot of ways to start the conversation. You can be straightforward and say, listen, I want to have a talk about, God forbid something happened to me and my health deteriorates. I want you to know what I want. Could be something straightforward like that. Or you can use examples from friends and family. My grandpa and my uncle died of stomach cancer. And so, having that question like, what did so-and-so die of? Oh, what if that happened to you? Or what if that happened to me? This is what I would want. What about you? Or you can blame somebody. Say, I listened to some crazy lady named Maria on a webinar, and she said that we're supposed to talk about this. So why don't we have a conversation? The other way you can do it is just taking examples from the news. There's always, I don't remember if you guys remember, maybe I'm dating myself. There was the Razuli case in the news, the guy who wanted to come off life support, the hospital wants to take him off life support, but the family said no, and it was a big legal battle. It went to the Supreme Court. It was in the news for a very long time. Even using examples that you hear about. If you're Italian like me, and Italians love to call people and tell them about, oh, so-and-so's in the hospital, did you know that? Then, for example, if my mom said, oh, so-and-so's in the hospital on life support, isn't that horrible? I'd say, so Mom, if that was you, what would you want? So they're not these big, heavy duty conversations. They're just listening to what people say. My mom, and I'm sorry, Mom, you're on video too, so I'm going to embarrass you. So my mom very clearly, for the last 20 years, she always says to me, swear to God, Mare, if I lose my marbles, just put me out, right? She's all about the mental health and being aware and awake and independent and all that. And so one time for Christmas, my mom's going to hate me for this. One time for Christmas, we bought our bag of marbles and we gave them to her. She lost her marbles and she said, that's the gift. That's it. Like,
you'll always have your marbles, Mom.
You'll always have your marbles. No, we won't lose them. But see, she makes it very clear that her mental health is really important. And God forbid if she has dementia or she's not able to function, like don't prolong my agony, basically. So there are simple ways to do it, but listening to people, just asking the questions. This is important to me. Make sure that if something happens, that's taken care of.
I know like there's been a lot of times, I've heard myself say this a few times to other people, like some of the girls at work will be having conversations, and I'll say like, you know, if anything ever happened to my husband, I think I would need like my sister-in-law to step in to be power of attorney for care, because like I don't think, as much as I know, I don't think I would make the best decisions for him or what he would want, because like he's my soulmate and I would never want to lose him. But I've never actually said that to him or to his sisters.
And you know that you're the spouse is the person who's going to be asked to make the decision if he doesn't have a power of attorney for care, right? So it would go to you, but you could also just say, I can't make the decision. They would go down the line.
I could pass it off, right?
Yeah, you could pass it off.
All right. So moving along, I just want to say, there's so much information available in regards to advanced care planning. Do you think that there's any myths in regards to advanced care planning?
Lots of miscommunication, misinformation, and misconceptions about it. Yeah. So I just picked a few of them that I would hear all the time when I was doing some teaching out in the community. One of them is, can you see that? Because my screen's a little obscured.
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh, I don't know what I just did. Sorry about your luck. Oops.
Everything looks good here.
Okay, so one of the things that I hear, so I teach at the university, I teach the human meaning of death to nursing and other students. And one of the things I would hear from the young people is, oh, well, that's for old people. That's for people who are terminally ill, but we're not terminally ill. The reality is that advanced care planning isn't about end of life. It's really about planning for life, up into including death. There is no age limit for an accident or unexpected illness to happen. With my students, I always use that example. The Broncos, right? That group of young hockey players that got on a bus that morning to go to a tournament, they ended up in a crash. And I don't think any of them expected that their parents would have to make decisions about coming off of life support. So, you know, unexpected things happen to us no matter what age we are. And it's better to have these conversations when we're not in a crisis. I can't tell you how many times in hospital when people are overwhelmed, emotional, no sleep, and now we're throwing jargon at them, asking them about life support and, you know, futility and end of life, and they're bombarded and they're thinking, oh my God, what do I do? So when we have conversations when we're healthy and well, they're hypothetical. They don't have the emotion behind it. But when we're doing it at the moment, all of this emotion is really playing into it. And it's such a struggle for people to have to make those decisions. So the best time to make these decisions or have these talks is to really have them when we're well and healthy, and they are just hypothetical situations that haven't happened yet, right? They encourage us to make these kinds of talks when we graduate from university or college, when we bought our first house. Well, I'm sorry for people now. I don't know if they'll ever buy a first house, poor things. The birth of a child, a marriage, a divorce, a new diagnosis. So when things in our lives change for better or worse, those are the times we should reflect on what is it that we need to know and who needs to know it, right? What is it that we want and who needs to know it?
Do you think that when somebody's ready to start making these plans for themselves, do they need to reach out to a lawyer, or what happens if somebody can't afford a lawyer?
That is a common misunderstanding. So you don't, first of all, this meeting now has unlimited minutes. How did you do that, Jess?
I don't know. They just love us. We're doing so great.
So in terms of having a lawyer, one of the things I heard from seniors constantly is I can't afford $300 an hour to do an advanced care plan or a power of attorney. So you don't need a lawyer. First of all, advanced care planning is a voluntary process. Nobody can force you into doing it. I know in the past, long-term care facilities, for example, were saying to people, in order to get a bed, you need to have some kind of advanced directive or advanced care plan in place. That is illegal. So if anybody hears that, they can say, really, because the law says that's illegal and you'll get a bed tomorrow. But anyway, so that is a problem. You don't need a lawyer. It's voluntary. Nobody can force you to do one. It can take place anytime you share your healthcare preferences with someone in a conversation or in a book. And those wishes because these are wishes. They are not consent to treatment. They're just what ifs, right? What if this happens? This is what I want. I'm going to show you a little booklet here. This little booklet, I don't know if you can't see it. This little booklet is available online. There's actually documents in here you can fill out, but there's also a power of attorney for personal care online. You fill out by yourself, sign it and witness it, and it is a legal document. You don't need a lawyer to complete one, whether it's your power of attorney for personal care or your advanced care plan.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's easy to do. And yes.
So what happens, say, I'm 30 when I fill this out and I'm healthy and I'm, doing great, living my best life. And then say I'm 65 and I just found out I've got lung CA and I decide I want to change some things that I've made plans for myself. Like I no longer want to be a full code or.
So this is not a one-time process because we change with age or situations in life or circumstances. Our advanced care plan can change, right? Depending on where you are in your life. You can change it as many times, as many times as you want. Change it as many times as you change your underwear. I don't care, as long as it's signed and it's updated and it's, you can change it whenever you want. I know people think it's like a will that you have to do it and then change it with a lawyer. It's not like that at all.
Okay.
And it's really important that, lost my train of thought. Don't know why it's important. What I was going to say.
You mentioned wills. So do you ever find like in your line of work that people like misconstrue those two
all the time,
like wills versus advanced care planning?
I hear this all the time. I hear two things. I have a will. I don't need an advanced care plan. So wills only come into effect after death. You have to be dead in order for your will to take effect. And the person who is executing your will or your executor only has power after you are dead, right? After you die.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't provide any authority to anybody to make a healthcare or financial decision on your behalf. Those are what the power of attorneys that are often drawn up by lawyers, but you can draw them up yourself. There's a site on the government site will give you those forms. So a will does not do anything for you while you're alive. Advanced care planning and substitute decision makers or power of attorney documents have authority while you are alive only. So for example, I am my mother's power of attorney for care when she's alive, right? I can make decisions about her health, about where she lives, about her walkers or her wheelchair. But once she's dead, then my brother, who is the executor, he would have the power to make decisions over anything with her property or her estate. So there's a very, very clear distinction. The power of attorney for personal care and the executor can be the same person. So, he could have been both, but in this case, we have separate power of attorney and executor. Does that answer your question, Jen?
Yeah, for sure. So I think a lot of times people always want to know the benefits of things. So what are the benefits of advanced care planning?
So first and foremost, it really helps you to get the care that is consistent with your values and your preferences, right? And your beliefs. So if I have strong religious beliefs around my care, we know that when people come into hospice, for example, and they're Catholic and they want sacrament of the sick and they want communion and they want confession, we know that we can accommodate them by providing those services to them. It reduces the non-beneficial transfers from acute care to unwanted and unwanted interventions. A number of times we've seen people come in from long-term care in their 90s with a number of illnesses, right? Comorbidities, Alzheimer's, unable to respond or to speak. And then I'm hearing people offering treatment to somebody who's 95 and who was really quite ill, and the family not knowing what to do because they're like, she doesn't even recognize us, and why would we do that surgery if she doesn't? So you're getting treatment that you may not have wanted when you were able to communicate for yourself. You might have said no to it. It definitely improves end-of-life care, and it certainly provides family with satisfaction with care, people, if you give them a satisfaction survey after the experience of being in hospital or at hospice, and we know exactly what they wanted in terms of their wishes, they're going to give you a better satisfaction. They're going to give you a better survey return saying it was a great experience. We were so grateful. They did what my mother wanted. One of the reasons I got into this work was this last benefit, and it was to help with the stress and anxiety that loved ones and family members feel when they're trying to make decisions. I got into advanced care planning. I did my thesis, actually, my master's degree, because I had witnessed a number of these cases, but one young man in particular, his mother was in our hospital dying, very Catholic, very religious. And she got to the point where the physicians were asking the son, he was a young man, probably in his 20s, asking the son, we need to take your mom off of life support. She's not going to recover. This is not good. You know, we need a decision. And this young man struggled with that decision, and he made the decision to take her off of life support. A few months later, I saw him back in our office, and he was a mess. So for months, he had been living with this guilt that he took his mom off of life support, knowing she was Catholic, thinking that he had killed her and it was against the church. And I remember saying to him, so if your mom saw herself in that bed and she could just step out and look at herself, what would she say? He said, oh, my mom was so feisty. She would have never wanted to be like that. I said, so you know your mom well enough. You listened to what she was saying, that she wouldn't want that. You made a decision based on what you know about your mom. You made the right decision. But he carried this guilt because he said, but we never talked about it. I said, I know, but what you based your decision on was her beliefs, her values, her independence was really important to her, he said. I said, so you based your beliefs on those things, and that's what your substitute decision maker should do. And so, but I just thought about him, 20-something years old, carrying this grief around, thinking that he had killed his mom. And thankfully, he came back to us, you know. So that's why I make sure, or want to make sure, people know, because it is a terrible burden to carry.
Thanks for sharing that story with us. I think we're just kind of coming to the end of our presentation. Just wondering, when this is all said and done, where can people go for more help?
So hospice offers a number of advanced care planning assistance, different ways to help you. We could do one-on-one. I showed you the workbook. This HPCO puts out this great workbook. You can download it online and fill it out online, or you can order it. I have tons of them at hospice. If you're part of other community programs like the Bioethics Institute, I do workshops for them. I think Assumption Cares is a community thing that does talks as well. But there are a number of places. In advanced care planning, every year they have an advanced care planning day or week in April 16th to be exact. And there's all kinds of information posted online, and certainly within the community. We'll be doing something soon. March 31st, I have one coming up, as well as in April, we're going to do the Advanced Care Planning Week.
Awesome. Anything else you'd like to add, Maria?
If you want to do one-on-ones, if you want to have questions specific to your own circumstance, you can give me a shout at hospice, mgiannotti at hospice, at thehospice.ca, contact me by phone, or go to our events calendar and take a look and see when the next ACP thing is coming up. But it's important, it's peace of mind for us, and it certainly does serve a purpose. And I just want to thank you for putting this out in the community. It is so important, and normalizing death and dying and sickness, and we need to do that because we're so terrified of it, right? Mm-hmm. But if we are like all cool with it, the rest of the world can be too, right?
I think so. You know, we just got to get it out there and get people talking and, you know, acknowledging it. It's not an event in life, it's part of life.
Part of life, exactly.
If we can face it with an open heart and open mind and a little bit of education, I feel like, and if I can help anybody die peacefully, I'd be a happy girl. So, well, thank you, Maria, and thank you everybody else for joining in today. I don't know if anybody has any questions. If you do, you can raise your hand or type a message in the chat.
I'll stop sharing so you can see everybody.
See everybody's names.
Yeah. I was so good. There's not a question. Really? I don't believe you.
Well, we got a lot of smart cookies out in the audience.
I know.
So that's okay. Just want to say thank you once again. If you come up with any questions later on, or I'm going to be posting this on my Facebook or my website. It's a pretty long video, so probably my website, but feel free to share it. What's Ashley saying? How are you both?
How are you both so beautiful?
Oh, it's Michaela. Talking there, Snow White. So the next meeting I think I'm going to be doing will be in April. I'm going to try to do one like every other month, so I'm not overwhelmed with things. But we will be featuring Linda Britton from our hospice residential home. She's the manager. So stay tuned for that. And I think that's it for now. Maria, anything else?
No, I think you, like I said, if there's more information, there's all kinds of stuff, feel free to reach out and I'll be glad to sit down with you one-on-one, or certainly do a workshop for family members, for anybody. So,
well, I'll definitely be in touch with you, Maria. Thank you guys again. I hope you all enjoy your Sunday. And if you're at work, you're almost done. So bye, everybody.